Okay, this is going to be fun, and if it's not, we all need to leave town immediately. 9:25. Vassos, over to you.
He's the actor and comedian who's in all your favourite shows, and he's the actor and comedian who's just won your favourite show. Together they star in a new Christmas film, Bad Tidings, which hits Sky, and now this Sunday. So please welcome Mary Lee Mack and Chris McCausland.
Let's hear it for the guys. Well done and welcome. Where do we begin with this, Lee? Can you advise me, please?
Well, let's be honest, it'd be like every interview we've done recently. It'd be all about him winning Strictly, so just crack on with that, shall we? Do you know what? Getting in the building, he got straight in. I had to go a different way. I was like his little +1, wasn't I, Chris?
I got taken down the special little route in the airport.
Right.
Just straight through this way, sir.
This is the sort of last-ish interview on a week of interviews. So you've been post-Strictly, and then you've been a sort of Strictly, and you've been Bad Tidings, and now hopefully we'll go mostly Bad Tidings. It's up to you. I don't really mind. So let's start with the film, because every interview I've seen you do this week, you've started with Strictly. Why wouldn't you? Because that's the heat. But let's start with your movie, because that is the big thing here now, isn't it, for you two guys?
Yeah.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, and it's been just one little mention of Strictly in that this has been the best time thing I've ever done in my life is have a film out the week after Strictly finishes. And it's a comedy film, and it's me and Lee. We play neighbours that don't get on. We live opposite each other. And I poke his character with a stick. Everybody loves me, thinks I'm amazing. And everyone thinks he's paranoid and losing the plot. And we blow the power for the whole street on Christmas Eve, and hilarity ensues.
And it's all in there. There's a bit of Home Alone in there.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about, Chris. It's a completely original idea.
Yeah. No, but you want it all in there. There's a bit of Love Actually in there as well. I think there's a bit of Full Monty in there as well.
The Full Monty?
Yeah,
I don't remember getting naked.
No, in as much as, you know, the Village Hall scene.
Oh, yeah,
That sort of community camaraderie kind of queuing up kind of thing. It's absolutely wonderful. It's wonderful. I watched it last night. It couldn't be more Christmassy. I thought Leader in it, because you have previous, so obviously we're not going out, but you wrote this one, didn't you?
Yeah, so I pitched this to Sky a couple of years ago.
So not only did he win Strictly, he's also written the blimmin' film as well.
Listen, I don't care. All I know is that when I texted him during Strictly and I said, all I ask from you is no scandal. Yeah. If I can get you through Strictly with no scandal, that would be a result. So as far as I was going, he was a winner every week.
Yeah, sorry, Chris, continue.
No, it's. I mean, he's right, because we'd done all the hard work, and so he was terrified that all that work was going to be wasted. I love the way though people think that like scandals in Strictly are they are the option of the male dancer. The 47-year-old northern comedian has a choice whether he has an affair with a young professional dancer. Yeah, it was my decision not to. It was an idea I had about 2 years ago. Do you know what? It's one of those things.
Very good point, well made. Forget the film. Right, okay. No, please.
Do you know what? I went to Sky and I had a whole script I'd written out for this idea for a sitcom, and then this kind of half idea, back of a fag packet idea for this Christmas film, and they went, "Oh, we love this." You know, the smaller kind of unthought out idea, and it just one kind of. Thing led to the next stage, and oh wow, they're still going with this. And 18 months later we were stood in Romford at 3 a.m. pretending it was Christmas.
Yeah, making a proper full-on film. It's an hour and 20 minutes, isn't it? It's great, man.
Yeah, and it's and we had different experiences here because it came from an idea I had, and I wrote it with two of the guys from Ghosts, so Martha Howe Douglas and Lawrence Ricard, who are in Ghosts, and they write on Ghosts, and they are phenomenal. And they had all the skills that I knew I was lacking to bring a full script, to a deadline. If they were still waiting for me for the first draft, they'd still be waiting for it probably. But 3 a.m. in Romford doing all these night shoots, and I was thinking, this is amazing, all these people because of this idea. Whereas Lee was very much thinking, this is 3 a.m. in Romford.
We did. The thing is, Chris reminds me of me about 10 years ago. He worries about the things that you should worry about.
Right.
So he's saying, we should drop this scene, we should rewrite this joke, we should do this. And I was very much does anyone know exactly what's for breakfast? What will the breakfast be? Because I'm starving, it's middle of the night,
You're not
battle-weary. I'm older, not battle-weary,
you've been there before.
Yeah, so breakfast is important, isn't it?
Yeah, but this was a movie. I mean, it is a movie. It's feature length, isn't it?
Yeah.
And your stuff is usually shorter than that.
Absolutely, yeah. This was a proper movie with great. We had a great team as well, so it was a great bunch of actors around us.
Yeah.
It was a good experience.
And your character's got a bit of Larry David going on as well.
I'm a bit grumpy in this, aren't I? I'm very grumpy.
But you're owning it as well.
Oh yeah, I mean it was 3 a.m. I was grumpy. That's not acting.
Right.
This is the thing as well. There's a lot, like me and Lee. Obviously, I've done a lot of Would I Lie to You with him, but really, us two working together, just as the two of us, was the BAFTA presentation we did, and so it's on YouTube. But it was basically a sketch that me and him wrote about me not being able to see the autocue, him reading my lines from the autocue, and I was very nervous when we went on to do that because it was brand new material in front of everyone that could ever give you a job on live TV, and I thought I could be the person that makes Lee Mack not funny, right?
Although I do quite a good job at that.
So as we were about to go out, I said to him, should we just knock this on the head and do the nominations? And he went, don't you bail on me now, right?
Yeah, you got to punk it up.
Cut to 2 years later in Romford at 3 a.m. He said, if only I knew then.
Only I'd have said, yeah, let's just read the nominations.
But look at you both smiling away. I mean, clearly a match made in heaven.
It's been great. We were sort of put together for this BAFTA thing. Then he came on my sitcom. He's done loads of Would I Lie to You's, now the film. So we've been turned into a sort of double act that neither of us intended to do. You know.
So where's it going to go from here, do you think?
Well, it's already ended now because he's won Strictly and now he doesn't want to know me. That's
simple as that.
He's going to be.
All right,
he's got loftier ambitions.
This is purely contractual, and after this, it's
sayonara.
Lee.
Yeah.
Well, we've decided if we get to do a sequel to this film, it'd be like a road trip to Miami or something like that, just to make up for the night shoots that we've done on this one.
So all this comes from that pairing, that BAFTA pairing,
and which we didn't. We knew each other from TV show. We weren't like mates. We didn't ask each other. Someone said, "Will you do this thing with Chris?" And I said, "Happy to do it with Chris," but I know he's going to think I'm a pain because I'm the kind of person that I don't want to just turn up and read out this little. We're gonna. When you watch these presentations, they can be sometimes a bit eggy.
Yeah.
So I thought we're gonna have to work on it.
But you always give it a go, don't you?
We're gonna have to rehearse it. Do it properly. I thought he's gonna think. I didn't know what Chris was like. He's gonna think I'm a pain. Little did I realise. Cut to a week later when he's ringing me going, "Can we rehearse it for the 19th time?" I was going, "Chris, it's fine as it is." He became the one.
I'm more of a pain than he is, and that's saying something.
Yeah.
Is that because you're nervous or because you're a perfectionist?
No, I like to. Prepare, and the more you prepare, the more it looks like you haven't prepared. But I think, especially because, being blind as well, and I'm used to, trying to succeed in like a mainstream entertainment environment and stuff. You almost have to exceed expectations a lot more, I find. And so I'm just used to over preparing for things. And when I turned up, I did Lee's sitcom with him, and we wrote the episode together with his writing partner as well, and I turned up at Lee's house with like just pages of notes, and he went, "Oh my goodness!" He said, "Now I know what it must be like to work with me."
So, all right.
It was like a mirror.
Gosh.
Like, oh my gosh!
You make yourself coming back.
It's true what everyone says. I am a pain in the backside.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
But some people are worth it because anybody who's any good creatively, you sort of end up being a pain in the backside. That's not an excuse, by the way. It just comes with the territory.
Yeah, you've got to do a lot of prep, particularly with comedy, where there's a lot of jokes.
But also, your design, your drive to do it is not normal. So with that comes all the baggage.
Yeah.
It's a crazy thing to do.
Not having to write this one was one of the main selling points of me being in it. I thought, this is great. Someone else is going to deal with all that.
So I mean, I love this. When there are power cuts, and so it's at night and all the lights go out. So there is some very fecund comedy ground. Blind man versus normally sighted man.
Yeah.
It's dark. Who's going to win this one? Yeah. When it comes to opening a tin of beans and not slashing your wrists.
Well, talking of which, did you see Chris on that programme Scared of the Dark? I think it was a Channel 4 show.
No, I heard about it.
Yeah, so basically a load of celebs were put in a house, pitch black. Was it a week, Chris?
Yeah, 8 days.
8 days. They're in pitch black, and it's him, Gaza, Chris Eubank, and all these celebs are there. And of course, Chris has got the advantage of he's used to not being able to see.
Yeah.
And so they were all panicking, as I would. Where's the toilet? Chris, can you take me to the toilet? Yeah. But he immediately knew where everything was. Yeah. So the still power shift is incredible, The
funny thing is when we filmed that as well, one of the most interesting things about everybody being in the dark, like Chris Eubank and so on, is when they ate, they couldn't find their mouths. The mess they made was horrific, right? The state of the table afterwards, covered in food. And for me, that was really quite interesting because it's a daily part of life. And the producer said to me, it's so disgusting, we can't show this on TV. Because it was just...
It is so. I mean, I haven't even told Chris this, but when we did the film together, we were in this hotel, and I did find myself sometimes thinking, I need the loo in the night or whatever. And instead of turning the light on, I think, I'll just go in the darkness just to see if I can do it. And it's really difficult. You do that thing where you put your hands out in front of you in case you hit anything and all that.
So
it's quite an interesting sort of experience.
Obviously, your learning curve, because you've not always been blind.
Yeah.
Did it remind you of your learning curve then?
So everybody being in it's weird as well how vulnerable it makes people. You know, it microwaves that bonding as well when people are thrown into darkness because they are all vulnerable together. A little bit like on Strictly as well. It's very intense, vulnerable experience, and everybody bonds quicker than you normally would. And I lost my sight really, really gradually over like 20 odd years. So, you know, massively different to just be thrust into it like that. But it did feel good. You know, it does feel good often to be the most able-bodied person because it doesn't happen often.
Well, you look extremely well. I know you've talked about it again in the last week. I've watched and read loads of the stuff you've been doing, on your own and also with Lee to do with Bad Tidings. You say you've never been fitter. You look extraordinarily well. When you were training on your Strictly journey, which ended up being a lot longer than you thought it was going to be, you thought you were going to have a couple of weeks, bit of publicity, and then most of November and December off and on the tour in January. Little did you know, it's your shortest Christmas break probably the last 20 odd years.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal, to be honest. And like I just didn't want it to be a disaster. You know, I didn't want it to be an absolute, like, just the blind guy can't do this on live TV, because that would have been no good for anybody. Because you want to surprise people, you want to challenge expectations. But for me, show 5 would have been a victory. That would have been, okay, I've done better than 3 sighted celebrities. Yeah. And that for me would have been a success. And it just connected with people, and I did a lot better than I thought I would do. And not only that, but the improvement was still happening, you know, and every week became a bonus. And I mean, it's the scariest thing I've ever done, the most exhausting, mentally fatiguing thing I've ever done, the most consuming thing I've ever done. Probably the thing that has connected with more people of all ages that I will ever do in my life. Yeah. And probably the most rewarding thing I will ever do in terms of how many people it has connected with and moved. I didn't expect it to be emotional. That caught me by surprise. I thought it was just dancing and entertainment. I didn't think people would cry. I didn't think I would cry. And, you know, there you are. All builds up, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, it's a hit for a reason, and it's not. Yeah. It has to be because it's from heart to heart. It's a soul to soul thing, and that's why it's such a big and hugely successful and uplifting show. But it's never been more uplifting in its 26 series history than that 2 minutes when you dance "You'll Never Walk Alone."
Oh my goodness!
I mean, it was like.
It was funny looking back at the old text that I sent because Chris was saying to me, "What do you think? Do you think I should do Strictly?" And I said, "I don't know. It's your decision." But I said, for what it's worth, what I like about you is you'll go on and you'll do. You know, people take it quite seriously, but you'll do the gags. You'll be funny. And you won't do all the emotional stuff. And I like that. So you'll cut to him getting a bit teary, and then me going to watch him going, it's quite emotional. I know. You get dragged into it. You really do.
And you're a wonderful partner. And the choice of song and the fact it was a waltz as well, so it was slower. So we had time for, you were like conducting our emotions. And then You'll Never Walk Alone, and you're a Scouser, and the guy who sang it is a Scouser, and there's the line, the darkness line, and then you're in the dark, and then you're on your own, and she comes back out. And then we got a 40. We got Diane's first ever 10 off Craig, so her first 40 in the 8 years she's been on it as well. I was a mess. I love Strictly. I was a mess. I was a mess. Absolute mess. You know, it's like Tom, who works on the show, he went to see Paul McCartney last night. I'm glad I didn't go because apparently I would not have been able to cope with how great it was.
Yeah.
And it was a bit like that with you on Strictly, mate.
Well, I mean, I appreciate even just being in that sentence. I've been reading reviews of Paul's shows, and I mean, he's 82, and it sounds like he's just absolutely on fire, doesn't it? For 3 hours.
Age is just a number, and you're proving that inspiration, aspiration, and ambition. There are no boundaries. There are no boundaries. The only boundaries that there are the ones we impose upon ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, we went ice skating yesterday, and I stood at the side while my wife and daughter did that. So there are boundaries. I'm not putting the ice skates on.
I think I'm sure you'll be getting that call in a minute, won't you?
Oh yeah,
I think there's limits. There's limits. I can't afford the 6 months off work it'll take to recover from the broken legs. But yeah, no, I mean, strictly just far more than I ever thought it would be.
All right, so you're fit as a fiddle now. So you got to try and keep that up. Lee, can I suggest that your version of this, not that there is one, by the way, I get that, would be like Soccer Aid or something like that?
I would say yes, very much.
Yeah.
He scored a goal on Soccer Aid, but he doesn't like to talk about it.
Well, let's give him the opportunity now.
There's two things I've done. Sometimes you get opportunities in this job that aren't really the job you do, but you get a little side sort of side
or
step.
a big side.
A big side. And for me, I was never, I didn't even make the school football team, but I've always loved football. And now suddenly I'm scoring a goal in front of a packed stadium, and
10 million people on the telly.
Yeah, and it's incredible. It was just
So
incredible.
for people who don't know, so when was this? How old were you? How fit did you try and get for it all?
Well, I've done it 6 or 7 times now, and the first few years, I was spending 6 months trying to get ready for it.
I remember.
And as every year went on, I realised, doesn't matter how fit I am, I'm always going to be the unfittest and the rubbish and the oldest one. I sort of stopped trying, and I tried less and less and less, and then I suddenly scored, and then it was incredible. It was like, oh my gosh, I've scored.
That's so funny,
but I have to say, the other one, which Vassos is connected to, was the darts at Comic Relief. When I got a chance to play darts at the Frimley Green, where the World Darts Championship used to be, and I loved the dart, and I won that, and I was like, it was just like a dream come true. It's like sometimes you get these moments where you go, how am I in this position? It's incredible.
All right, well, let's play this game. Okay, the goal on Soccer Aid or winning the darts at Frimley, you can only have one. Which wins?
It's got to be the football. It's got to be, because I've always been all right at darts, actually. I've always been terrible at football.
Right.
So to be able to do that is more unexpected.
Well, listen to this one over here, Chris McCausland, because you've just been on Talk Sport. Haven't you just given darts a go as well?
Well,
I mean, sometimes you have to get back in your box, don't you?
There was a dartboard in one of the little rooms where we were waiting. Lee was having a go. I said, give me them, let me have a go. I hit the dartboard.
3 times he hit the dartboard.
With the darts. Lee went, hang on a minute, let me just point you in the right direction. He turned me. I missed everyone. Hit the telly with one of them. So I was
as soon as
better
I
on
got
my own.
involved, he hits the television.
Do you know what though? Just speaking of the dart, like last Christmas when Luke Littler kind of arrived on the scene, the darts on Talk Sport was phenomenal, right? I mean, I love the radio anyway. I always listen to sport on the radio, and darts on the radio is fantastic. And the job they did was just incredible. So I think more darts on the radio is what I'm asking for.
Yeah, more darts on the radio. Well, Talk Sports.
Talk Sport 2 live from every session of the World
Vassos used to commentate on the darts, didn't you, Vass?
Yeah,
it's brilliant. You used to get snooker on the radio,
Did you?
Yeah, back up before Radio 5, when Radio 4 did the sport, you used to get the snooker
You used to get ventriloquism on the radio. That was the big thing. I'm not joking.
No, it's true.
It was the biggest... I'm not joking. People think it's a gag.
Yeah, it was on before the mime.
No, but honestly. joke. The biggest show that's ever been listened to on UK radio was a ventriloquist act, and it was when Radio 1 and Radio 2 were joint, and it was really weird. The two stations were called the Light Programme. That's what they were called. They weren't called a network. The Light Programme was Radio 1 and Radio 2 simulcasting, and it was a Saturday night show, and 32 million people a week used to tune in.
Somebody called Archie, wasn't it?
I can't remember. Yeah, it was Archie and somebody
in the 60s or something.
Yeah.
And it was like, but it was a ventriloquism act.
That's mad, isn't it?
I mean, nice work if you can get it.
Yeah.
That's like when people can't, when you go, it's like Emu or Sooty, where they didn't even speak.
Yeah.
When Sooty used to whisper in his ear, and you go, you just can't do ventriloquism, can you? That's
No, but it's like strictly there was something else going on, otherwise it wouldn't have worked.
I know.
There must have been something else to it, I suppose.
I mean, Emu would be cancelled if he was still going, though, wouldn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Emu. God bless Emu. All right, so let's get back to Bad Tidings. Bad Tidings. How long did it take to film? How filmy was it? You know, how big was the production? I'm always excited about that kind of stuff. How were the neighbours?
Well, we got really lucky because you mean the real neighbours that live in that street?
It's like Brookside, isn't it?
Exactly, but it's very hard to go. I did another sitcom once where we had to have we rented some of the houses, but some of the other houses were still lived in.
Yes,
and there's a bit of a conflict sometimes between those two things. They found basically a brand new housing estate of brand new houses for sale, and only one of them had been sold, and the other 7 or whatever were empty.
Is this for your bit or for the film?
For the film. For Bad Tidings.
I found this whole
street. They found the whole street that was closed off to the world, apart from one house, and even they got paid off to go to the Maldives or something.
Yeah.
So we got the whole street, which was really much easier to film.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it was fantastic, and Sky have really gone to town on it, to be honest. And they hiring in things I didn't even know you could hire, like their own street lights, so they can control the power to them and stuff like that. And they dressed the whole street up for Christmas.
Well, that's what I find odd when you're going past a street light and you don't find out until the final day of filming that it doesn't belong to the street.
Oh, mate!
You go, no, we brought because people are carrying it off on the last day. You go, where are you going with that?
We used to live in the gatehouse. We rented it, the gatehouse of Windsor Great Park, right? That's where we used to live, and so our house was half in the street and half in the park, and we had a gate that went into the Queen's Garden. It was crazy. We lived there for a couple of years, and they started filming. What's the Bonkathon show? Do you remember? Bridgerton. They started filming Bridgerton in our bit of the park, right? But they said it didn't look old enough for them. It's Windsor Great Park, so they made it look older and more great parky.
Wow.
It couldn't look any better than it does.
The trees didn't look old enough.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, well, we did 3 weeks in this place in Romford. We did 2 in Sky Studios, and we were in the sound stage that Wicked had. We were the one in after it on that. But
that's always handy, isn't it?
When we were there, we had the new Bridget Jones was getting filmed to one side of us, and they were building Jurassic World to the other side of us.
That's so great.
And, that gives you ideas above your station, doesn't it? When that's happening. I don't think they were going, do you know what? The new Chris McCausland Lee Mack film's happening here. But it was great.
Lee, is it true that you were asked this week by one interviewer, no names, no pack drill, not going out is so good, why don't you bring it back?
Yeah. Yeah,
And?
someone said a reboot. So why have you thought of doing a reboot of Not Going Out?
Yeah.
I said, well, we can't do a reboot. It's still on. It's still on. I mean, to be fair, I think I was on Capital. They're not really my demographic.
No, I know, but it's still
Do you know
funny.
what I mean? Yeah. They're a bit younger, the listeners on that.
I bet Sky couldn't believe that you won Strictly. They were like, we've got
what a result.
got this film. The same guy.
It's
the same guy.
yeah.
I didn't even know.
We had no idea.
I didn't even know he was doing Straight. He knew, but I didn't know we were making the film. I read it in the news like everybody else, and I texted him and said, "You kept that quiet."
So good at keeping a secret. He was annoyed with me when he phoned up. We've been talking about.
Oh right, no, this is good. When did you sign up then?
So I signed up for it around about beginning of January.
Oh what?
Yeah. Because I had a tour, and some of the tour dates needed moving. So they asked me, because they'd been asking me and I kept on saying no, and they asked me about this year. Last year they asked me about this year. I said no. Christmas special, no. I just kept on saying no, and then I was basically persuaded to give it more consideration, and we had to move tour dates. And so I said, well, if I'm going to do it, we're going to need to agree this now so that things can be moved, and so that's
what
how
was your
early
code
it was. Oh, so everybody gets this year it was desserts, and so to kind of keep this level of secrecy, everybody gets a name. I was Knickerbocker Glory. Brilliant. And there is nothing more suspicious than a taxi picking you up for the name Knickerbocker Glory, because instantly they're like, so what's this about then? Whereas if you were just under your own name, no one would bat an eyelid.
That is so funny. Because do you know about this, Lee?
I didn't know. This is the first I've heard of it.
So every year they pick a category, a genre, strictly pick a genre for the code names. And because I signed up for Strictly once.
Did you?
Yeah, I signed up for it. I ended up not doing it, but I did sign the contract, and it was Disney, and I was Donald Duck, and I couldn't wait.
But what I don't understand is if the idea is to keep your code name, and then they tell the taxi driver you're picking up Donald Duck.
Yeah.
It's not much of a code because then Chris Evans gets in the car. It doesn't really work, does it?
I don't know. I never got that far. Tell us about it, Chris. What happens there?
I know, but then all it does is it says to the person picking you up that there's something secret going on here. You know what I mean? Rather than just, I'm just driving Chris Evans somewhere.
But also, I suppose if you get those cab drivers around that kind of environment or that geography in London, and it's time for this year's nicknames. Oh, you'll be the Strictly lot then, because last year it was desserts.
Yeah. So it kind of...
Did you get to choose Knickerbocker Glory?
No, I was given it. I wouldn't have gone for it. I'd have been chicken sponge and custard or something.
On The Masked Singer, I was one of the guest judges on it, and I brought my family and kids on. They loved it, we did it. And I didn't realise that they keep it so secret. When they announced the results, the biggest point of the show, they chuck the audience out. They don't let the audience watch the reveal of who wins. It's like not being able to see the end of a film, isn't it? I mean, obviously,
wow.
I pulled a few strings and my daughter was allowed to.
Oh my God, Tully, don't you love it? So Lee and Chris are in this film. It's Bad Tidings, and it's out this Sunday on Sky and Now. And Vass and I, we both watched it. It's great. Such a Brit flick. It's a great Brit flick is what it is. Obviously, because you are blind, Chris, I know you know that better than anybody else, that gives you permission to write as many jokes about that as you want to. Does that mean you go as far as you feel like on the day, or are there still boundaries for as far as other people are concerned who may be also partially sighted or blind?
No, it's because everybody's experience is different, and for me, when we were writing this, that was part of the reason for doing a one-off thing, is that if you're going to do a sitcom, being blind is going to be the fifth most interesting thing about the character, because you can't do the jokes in episode 1. You go, well, what do we do in episode 2? And it gets boring. Whereas a one-off film, you can kind of go to town a little bit more and not have to worry, oh, what do we do for the next one? And so there's a few gags in it, and it's for me, it's hopefully me being in this film, I always like to think it's about surprising people and kind of a little bit about challenging preconceptions, and that doesn't have to come from the character. That can come from the fact that it's me acting in the film, because all the stunts we did ourselves, except for maybe one of them where Lee falls down the stairs, because it was brutal, wasn't it? But all the stunts we did ourselves, and so for me, seeing me in this film doing all of these stunts and legging it around, being thrown here and there and everywhere, that sends out a good message to the industry that people who are blind, people who are disabled in these things can really hold their own, But the character itself, we've been daft, we've gone silly. There's a high five joke where I smack Lee in the face, and the only way we could do that was for me to repeatedly smack Lee in the face. I remember the director saying to Lee, "How many more you got in your Lee?" I can do it twice.
It's not the 12 slaps. It's when it gets to about take 15 and it becomes like a poke in the eye. It's the little fingernails in different parts of the face.
And you get the idea this is about something else.
You start going.
There's a difference.
Sure we've got it now.
There's a difference between smacked in the face by somebody who can see where the face is and someone who can't gauge where the face is.
For people who don't know, that first coming together of you two, the BAFTA Awards, can you remind people what happened, or tell them if they didn't know in the first place, and how did that happen? Not who chose it, because you've already talked about that, but the decision to have that a little back and forth about the autocue.
Do you know, I can't remember how we came about. We just met up and just said we're not doing the eggy thing of turning up 10 minutes before and thinking of something.
Right.
We're going to work it out in advance. And I think it might have been Chris said, wouldn't it be funny if you were having to read, because everyone reads from the autocue.
It would have had to be Chris, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So Chris, wouldn't it be funny if...
Yeah, it was me that suggested it, and then we worked it out together over a coffee, and Lee was kind of quite adamant as well that this, because this is how obsessive Lee is, and I'm exactly the same amount of obsessive. He was like, well, this can't just be funny. If we take away the actual jokes about the confusion, the lines that should have been said should be the lines that would be said. So we really made it watertight in terms of the logic.
And also, I've just remembered, you might not remember this, but on the day we actually finally turn up, we've written this on an autocue, so it looks like it's going wrong. But of course, it's going wrong is on the autocue, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to do it. I just had laser eye surgery. I couldn't see the autocue. So I turn up and panic and go, I can't read that. I mean, talk about literally the blind leading the blind. I was there going, Chris, I can't read this. And of course, I'm prompting him both in the fictional world of that's the joke, but also in reality, I'm prompting him as well. And I couldn't read it. I was like, you have to make the font massive.
Yeah.
When did you discover that?
Like that. an hour before we go on
Oh
air.
my gosh,
we went in
funny.
the afternoon with an empty audience, and I suddenly goes, "You've got to make the font ridiculously
So it was like
huge."
the top line of the eye test.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, it was like that,
Apologies, but Lee has made himself blinder just for this occasion.
Oh my gosh, so funny! You got to watch that again. Morning, Chris. I've just watched. Sorry, I watched Lee at Birmingham and Chris in Banbury, and you're both my most favourite comedians. Chris, you're absolutely amazing. Says Ali. Had me hooked every week watching you and Diane. The chemistry between you both was fantastic, and whoever matched you two together knew what they were doing.
Absolutely.
Well, that's the thing. When the Beeb get it wrong, they get it wrong. But when they get it right, there's nobody better.
Do you know what? When he texted me, or when I found out, whatever, you find out these things, that he was with Diane. In fact, I found out like everyone else watching it on the telly. I was so happy for him because I've worked with Diane. We did a show called Freeze the Fear.
Right.
And she was the most positive, happy, lovely person you could meet and I know that because I had to go out at 7 a.m. and try and make these people laugh as they were sitting in ice cold water. And that is a tough crowd, let me tell you. But she was always very generous with her laughter.
She's funny as well, she's got a great sense of humour. And a lot of the guys, you always see them on, when they go out and they give the little speech going, I feel very lucky to have been paired with you. And as you say, Chris, they know what they're doing. I don't think I was just randomly put with Diane.
No.
I think they thought she's a great communicator. She's the perfect teacher for me. She's got a good sense of humour. We work well together, and I'm boy with you right,
I love that the bit where Shirley, at the end, when she was just before you got your perfect tens, and she said, "Can you come over here because I want to give you a hug?" And then Shirley said, "From one teacher to another," it really chokes me up. From one teacher to another teacher, well taught.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, she was phenomenal. I mean, she take me out of the equation. She deserved that glitter ball for everything she was able to get out of me.
You couldn't have got it without her. That's the whole point, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But she, maybe I was the most improved. I wasn't the best, but maybe I was the most improved, and she was easily the best performing.
Yeah. If you haven't seen it, watch it. Watch it on YouTube. Watch our thing again on the iPlayer. Honestly, it's so uplifting. I mean, there was one headline this week. Chris McCausland, the guy who saved Strictly. I think you might have killed it off because I don't know what the heck. It's like No Time to Die. It's like, what do you do next?
How'd you follow
They're
it?
gonna have to go back to just Strictly Come Dancing.
Wow. Next year it'll just be a brain in a jar, and they'll just have to carry it around the dance floor. Okay.
Penny from Morecambe. Sorry, Benny. Penny from Crossroads. No, Penny from Morecambe. The trust between. How good was Benny?
I love your
Crossroads?
topical reference points. Benny from Crossroads.
I'm right on it, aren't I? The trust between Chris and Diane was so beautiful to watch. Best really ever. Just speak to the trust aspect of that for a second.
Yeah. So because I'd signed up for this quite early, I had quite a long time to acclimatise myself to the idea of doing this. And there's a lot of trust things going into this in terms of I didn't know what the show was. I didn't know what the dances were. I didn't know how good they were, how bad the bad people were, what the costumes were. And you are a little bit worried about being silly, and you just have to give yourself over to it. And I'd made peace with that beforehand. And so it was the same with Diane. I knew that I had to 100% trust everything she said, and that she wanted the best out of us. And we hit the ground running. And a lot of people say, Chris, incredibly brave to do Strictly when you can't see it. And it was terrifying. But what's braver, me learning how to dance on live TV when I can't see where I'm going, or her allowing the blind man to fling her around over his head, So the trust was both ways, and it was just implicit
It
from the
literally
beginning.
was a case of when two become one.
Oh yeah, and I am. My musicality was praised throughout the series. I love music. I can't really play anything, but I love music, and also I'm used to being guided around by people. When you're guided around by people, you get used to reading their body positions and their change when they go through a door, past an obstacle, and maybe that's maybe that has been the one thing that has helped me in terms of just us, because we've been praised of it's like moving as one when we were together, and it just worked. But yeah, we trusted each other from day one, really.
Okay, let's congratulate you, Lee, on being a great audience member and looking like you were really pleased for him.
Thank you. I mean, I'm trying to work out if that's sarcasm or not. Someone did text me and say you look quite stern. I thought, stern? I wasn't stern. Was
But the pressure was on you.
I was overcome with emotion. That's all it was.
He's smashing it, and you're his mate in the
I know.
audience.
Well, I was saying to his wife, because I sat as Chris's wife, and I was thinking, the only way to describe it is it's like a pantomime meets a penalty shootout.
Right.
It's very over the top. I mean, I used to watch it thinking, how could people take it so seriously? But by God, I got suckered in. What the tension of the night, it was like, he's got to win this. He's got to win this, otherwise I'm going to be devastated.
Yeah, well, he did, thank God. Can we have the biggest round of applause ever for Chris McCausland and Lee Mack, of course? Thank you, guys. I can't wait to see what you get up to next. I mean, I'd love a road trip series or something. Wouldn't you, like The Trip or something like that? That'd be all the fun. Reece says, love you both. Your chemistry is amazing. Oh my God, Chris, you are amazing. And you too, Lee. Couple of line spaces, but you
know, it's again.
I think she means it.
I'm Chris McCausland's +1. I know how it works now.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think we're all Chris McCausland +1s, aren't we?
In fact, Chris McCausland's sidekick is really Diane now. I'm in the third position now.
What are we going to do? Let's regroup and think about it, Lee. And Chris, you're coming to Carfest, which is great. Lee's been there, he loves it.
Oh yeah,
come with him.
I was going to say this is the first year I've done an interview. You haven't made me commit on air that I'm going to come and do it. And it's the one year that my wife said, make sure Chris asks you because I want to go back.
All right, so, are you coming to Carfest?
What's
Lee?
the date?
August bank holiday, as
no,
always.
I'd love to do it. I'd love to do it.
Done.
I'm in.
Right, well, that's it for the weekend. Aussie Jane's happy Christmas. She's off. She'll be back, though, in the new year, hopefully. We'll be back after the weekend. Have the best ever weekend. It's the best Christmas weekend ever because it's 21st, 22nd. Best ever. Bye-bye, everyone. Ta-da.